Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Bad to Business. I am your shining host, Shining Saffron. You know my co-host from the West Coast, Jazzy Younger. Hello, Jazzy. How you doing?
Hey, good. I'm having a great, fabulous day. It's awesome here in Phoenix. I'm ready to do another great show. Let's get into it.
Definitely. And you know I'm always going to ask about your fabulous weather because I'm so jealous of it. How's weather over there?
Oh man, it's very lovely. This past weekend it was like 92. Nice, sunny, no rain, just very nice, warm. Today it's a little bit cooler, but I mean, it was still like 78, 80. Still very nice. So I'm loving it right
Not having a bad winter at all.
now. No, not at all. Like it's
Not having,
almost like
I'm sorry, not
paradise.
having a winter. Let's take bad out. Not having a winter at all.
Right, it's like paradise.
Hmm. Well, good for you. Good for you. Well, thank you for joining me. As usual, I love to have you. Another great episode. But for those who are joining us for the first time, welcome to Bad to Business. Bad to Business, B.A.D.D is an acronym for bringing all diverse discussions to business. And that's what we do here. We make sure that everybody who has an opinion or has a point of view gets their business brought to the table. And we
Yep.
try to find some type of unity or try to find some type of resolution to do it. No opinions, no thoughts, no point of views unheard, all respected, and all try to find a resolution to it, like I said. So, again, welcome to Bad to Business. Come sit at the business table and let's get down to business. So,
Hey.
today we will be talking about boss behavior. Now, we're going to talk
Mm.
about bad bosses versus bad bosses. Now, we're not talking about horrible bosses like the movie. I don't know if anybody has seen Horrible Bosses. We will not really talk about it. So,
Yeah.
we're not really talking about horrible bosses. We are talking about just having, some of those bosses that you just could not click with versus the bosses that you just really hated to have to leave if you had to. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
and we want to talk about just having the freedom of relinquishing the control, being able to, lead without having, I guess, the controlling aspect of it. You can still lead without being so controlling. I know that
Yep.
there's a verse in the Bible that says you need to serve before you can lead, and that's really important. So many times we get a boss in position that, and I know a lot of us have had this where your boss doesn't know as much as you do. We kind of
Mhm.
hire somebody who doesn't. In one of our episodes we talked about that in cronyism and um, getting somebody in there who doesn't really know what's going on, putting
Yep.
them before you. We won't touch back on that. You have to follow back up. But with that being said, we want to make sure that whatever position you are put in to lead, you at least have some type of vulnerability to you so that you can be compassionate and some things. So in this episode, we're just going to talk about how to keep that bad boss energy while still being empathetic in your human relationships. And that bad boss energy is that the person that breaks adversity down distinctively.
Yeah.
Somebody who can still, who can lead with authority but still have that compassion, right? So, Jazz, have you been a supervisor or a boss before?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Right.
I
Take a deep breath.
because I mean, it's one of those things that I mean, I've done it. But I'm not one of those people that enjoys doing it. Like that's not something like if I'm working for someone else, that I strive to be. Like I'm not striving to be the manager of a department or, the CEO of someone else's company. Now, I've also been like the boss of my own company. I've, dabbled in having my own business. So, it's different when you work for yourself being a boss versus um again having to say be a team lead or a supervisor or a manager where you still have to follow the rules of the umbrella, say
Correct.
corporation or wherever you're under, but
Correct.
you have to, lead and still be successful. You got to make sure your team is successful. In some positions, you have metrics that you have to meet,
Mhm.
different things like that. So,
And it
I
can
would,
be very stressful being a boss,
yeah,
having to
totally.
meet all these demands of not only your company, but your quotas and,
Yep,
you know,
yep,
uphold your position, so to
yes,
speak. But
yes.
how do you, or how did you find it to where you could, I guess, find the median between? And it is really hard, I believe. I've had some bad bosses. Like, I miss them, right? I could only imagine how hard it is to be so cool, but still be that leader role that says, I need you to respect my position, you know, that I still have to lead. I still have to do certain things in this position. So, how do you find a median, or how did you find a median? Like you said, it's one thing to be under somebody, a good or bad boss. Um, and then there's another thing to own your own business and stuff. Now, even when you own your own business, it is a matter of, do you have employees under you and how they
Yeah,
feel about you? Because now we're talking about just a boss in general. Now,
yeah,
having your
exactly.
own business, a one man band, an entrepreneur, of course, you feel like your boss is wonderful. You feel like your boss is the greatest boss in the world. But when you have to be the boss of other people, how do you make sure that you um, still have that bad boss energy, but still have compassion and make sure that that your team respects you rather than fears you?
I would say it definitely relies on complete and honest transparency.
Mm,
When
mm.
I mean, and not a lot of people like to be transparent about anything. Nobody wants to.
With the company, especially because there is still a limitation on what bosses can talk about, right? And be transparent
Yeah.
with their employees.
So, and I mean, like, even with me, like, when I worked at a company, well over 10 years, and like almost, well into COVID as well. So, um,
Mm,
I had a team that I was responsible for, so to speak, and I was over them for a good 2, 3 years before I even got laid off, because of COVID. So, from the moment that I took the position, because I actually, it's kind of funny that we're talking about this because I was in between. So I was the supervisor. I still had someone I reported to, and then they reported to me. So I had to
mm.
answer for their
That,
mistakes. And then
that
again, I had to report to someone who wasn't the best boss. Like we talked about in previous shows, they were hired in. I had
happens.
been there well over 10 years. They're now my boss and know nothing about our organization.
Mm,
So, me
mm,
having to train them as well as my employees that I have. So, again, I was 100% transparent with the employees that I did have. I had a team of 5 people under me. So, 6 of us, including, my 5 employees. And I basically let them know, like, hey, I know we're like, because again, we were friends prior to me getting said position.
position.
So
Okay,
I did
so
let
now
them
that's a
know.
different level.
Yeah,
That's a
like I
different
let
type of
them know,
boss.
like, hey, I get it. We are friends, but however, in this work environment, I need you to work with me just like I need to work with you. Whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
again, my supervisor hat comes first, unfortunately, while we're at work. Outside of work, call me. It's fine, but at
exactly.
work, it's a whole different thing. We need to follow the rule. Like I said, I was completely transparent with them, and like I said, I would hope that they respected me more because of that.
Exactly.
Because it was one of those, we were friends or whatever. I'm not one of those that just go around talking, doing anything like that anyway. But then, as a supervisor, it's a whole nother thing to also have to fight for my team, as well as be confident and keep things between us, or if it needed to go to upper management or even HR, that was something that I was able to be comfortable with doing. Like, I've seen
Being
my
the liaison.
share of yeah, I've seen my share of shady situations. An employee came to me with something that she wasn't even sure about. It was a life situation that she needed advice about, and she felt comfortable enough to come to me as a friend and as a leader for advice on what she might should do.
Mm,
And like I said, I had to empathize and make sure that, I made her feel comfortable. And again, there was no judgment, there was no, malice, there was nothing like bad or anything. But again, I thanked her for coming to me, like even as a friend or just even as a leader. And, we got through it
trusting
together. And, it's one of those things. But
and
like I
trusting
said,
you with that type of stuff.
yeah, I
And let me
completely
tell you
believe in
this,
transparency.
just with that, the open door policy is so serious. Now, I
Mhm.
remember telling a boss one time, I respect your open door policy. I just need to know that the door closes after I come in.
That, and that's what
You
it
know what I
was.
mean? And,
Yeah,
and I need to know that what if I'm coming in,
what you
you don't let
discuss is
somebody
with
come in
me.
and my business is still floating around. You know what I'm saying? So
Exactly. No, your business has been tucked away as far as no one can see but
yeah,
me.
and then playing the like you said, being the liaison. Now I'll tell you, I've been somewhat of a team lead at some point, but I
Mhm.
never really accepted nor applied for a management position because of, and you stated something. I never really wanted to be responsible for the way other people did their job.
Yes, that's
Now,
huge.
of course, it falls back on a manager and it falls back on a boss,
Yes,
uh, and how they handle it is totally different. But it is still about, I have to make sure you do your job, and then if you don't, I have to fire you.
or something.
You know, I mean, well, no, because it's either I
There's
make sure you do your job,
consequences.
whether
There's
that's
consequences.
make sure with the check-ins. I think we were just talking about that, how your bosses send you a one-on-one check-in, um,
Mhm.
via email or something like that. So whether that be the check-in to make sure that you're doing your job, or if you're not doing your job and I've had so many check-ins, now it's time for you to check out.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So
or review time. Like it's time for me to determine will you get a raise or not. I, you're
I did. I
you're
think I personally never wanted to be in charge of something like that. I rather work as a
definitely.
team member than someone who instructs you, right? So,
Yeah.
and I very supportive as a team member, and yeah, the leadership wise, I can do it. But if you put me in that position, I feel a little, uncomfortable. And
Mhm.
it's crazy because even when you saying being able to talk to your employees, like some may think that being a boss means like you got to be cold and you got to be calculated in how you do things, right? There is definitely a structure to be had. We know that is
Definitely.
the core to every successful business is a structured something, whether it
Yeah.
be a routine, a structured whatever, right?
Right.
But the new era of business is basically led by the heart, and sometimes it's too emotionally attached. um, we know that I've talked to you about, there was a company I worked for where there was somebody that we all could see as coworkers. There was another employee that just really took advantage of the system. And it
Mhm.
hurts us as other employees to see that you got the bosses now like kind of changing their attitudes and changing their demeanor because now they're having to put on a harder shell due to one bad employee.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is now they have to find the median between, without, I guess, really showing favoritism or discrimination against anybody. Now we have to treat you all like this, even though it's only one employee. We got to do that. So in this
The
day and
blanket
age, now
conversation.
and you were a boss and a supervisor and a team lead, and so was I before. I guess, and I think it's okay to say this, before the world got so sensitive about
Mhm.
a lot of things.
Mhm.
So it was okay to kind of put someone in a place. I'm not going to say in their place, but in a place that said, "Hey, you're the one messing up." You know,
Yeah.
let's go
You
for,
gotta do
I
better.
don't want to say lack of a better word. Let's go ahead and use the word that is not allowed to be used anymore, but singling out. We come from
Yeah.
a time where
No.
it was okay to single out, not have to send out what's called a blanket statement. No, we
Yep.
use the blanket to cover and smother the person that we're talking about.
That,
But nowadays, you have to just send it out to everybody. And I've worked with a company where us employees got a little offended when we know who you're talking about, but you have to talk to everybody.
yep.
Um, and then you have to lay down more stricter rules on everybody. And it just doesn't seem fair. So even when you're talking to, in that case, when you got to talking to your employee and stuff, I believe it's really hard that you to be such a compassionate type person and have to deal with situations so circumstantial, because now you got to
Yeah.
treat everybody equally. But if that's the case, everybody has problems. Everybody's going through something. So how do you determine as a boss that, hey, I have to make sure that the business is covered, the teams are covered, and you have to be here, versus I understand why you're not.
So that actually makes it really hard. So
Mm,
we've both talked about this because, again, I had a small team, and one of my team members was on what's called like a almost like a intermittent medical leave, if you will.
okay.
So basically, she was, just for lack of, I'm not going to discuss what was going on, but basically, she had doctor's notes that would cover her
Validate. Yeah.
tardiness or her absent days within reason or so. And because of that, like my other employees did feel some kind of way.
Okay.
So it's one of those things where you kind of have to, because she is protected,
Correct.
because there's
That's a
laws and
little bit
everything
more
like
by the
that.
book.
Like it's a little bit different. I mean, just because she's protected does not mean that your other employees aren't going to feel some kind of way. Because
Yeah,
all they
and that
see
doesn't mean that
is
they're not protected either. It's just a
no,
it's the level of protection
that, and
when
they're
you're
looking
able
at it
to.
like, okay, well, she's always out, or she's always this, or this is going on, or whatever. Yet I'm getting the one being talked to about my, you
Just
know,
being late. Yeah,
PTO or being late or whatever the case
correct,
may be. And it
correct.
could be, it's not even necessarily you. Oh, my kids, something happened with my kids, or, something happened with my car. Like everything happens to everybody
That
all the time.
exactly. That's what I mean.
But again, there's a different kind of level of protection. And it's hard when you do have a small team, because really it's up to that manager, or like in my case, I was everybody's backup. So I knew how to do the entire department's job, and like if everybody was gone, the department could still function with me and a little bit of time management. You know what I mean? So if it happened that way, I was able to do the job. So again, it's not like we didn't have backup or people weren't cross trained. But again, people start feeling some kind of way about either the underappreciation, because now they're feeling like, okay, this person might be taking advantage, or this person's always this, or whatever. You have to find a way to, again, talk to that employee, find out what's going on and let them know, hey, this isn't something that we can control, unfortunately.
Right.
But what can we do to make it better for them? Like,
Well,
I
and
had to find a resolution.
the good thing about bosses like you and supervisors like you is that, like you said, you um and it could be, I won't even call it a gift and a curse. It is a gift that should not be taken advantage of good
Right.
bosses, like I just said, or bad bosses, B.A.D.D, the ones that break adversity down distinctively. So
Hmm.
the adversities that you faced with your employees or your small team, if one person called out, like you said, I was able to pick up the slack because I already knew what it was.
Yeah.
You didn't necessarily expect another employee to pick up the slack, which is where employees get upset. You didn't necessarily, you know, make the person that called out feel bad, because what you did was you kept it going,
Right.
right? And that's why let's break down the hustle myth of a boss, right? So
Hmm.
we do have to hustle and get things done,
Right.
but our attitude about it how we get the things done and how we hustle. Like you said, good time management. The department could still run. It is the bad bosses that make you feel bad about things coming up, a flat tire, a child sick,
Yeah.
something like that, versus a boss that says, hey, I know that things are going on. I can fill in. I
Right.
know that part of your job. I can feel that part. And I've had a boss like that too. Like, I can't do the whole process and operations that you do on your desk, but I can fill in and take care of the emergencies or the first priorities. Right. So that's the hustle that we love for our B.A.D.D bosses to
Mhm.
carry.
Mhm.
We love those bosses that um, have that emotional intelligence to be able to apply it well, even in their position. Forget necessarily, oh, having to make up for mine, but your position is you already know what to do.
Mhm.
That's how you, some of you got that position because you already know what to do and you already know how to handle it. And so to be able to step into that and say, you know what, I understand. But like I said, it's also a gift that should not be taken advantage of. Just because your coworkers or your boss know how to do your job, shouldn't expect for them to do that. Just like you shouldn't expect for them to be there to receive your check on payday.
Right.
You just it just not an expectation of them.
Right.
But being that type of boss is definitely a business asset, and it actually adds to a company and that's how you keep employees in longevity, when they know that a boss has their back, right?
Mhm.
A lot of the times, a lot of people leave the jobs and they tell you it's not the people. I love the people. It's the job. And even when they say it's the job, it's usually the overhead. Let's be honest. So it's not their coworkers, it's the bosses or the overhead that have made whatever type of changes or challenges. I'm not going to say that they're good or bad,
Yeah.
um, that someone just couldn't agree with,
Yeah.
right? But I do believe that when you have a good boss in there, a bad boss, B.A.D.D boss, that has transparency. Hey, these are the quotas. And I had a boss like that. Hey, you guys, this is what they expect. But I've let them know that that is really high for what we do on a daily basis.
Mhm.
You expect this much from my team, but that would really stress them out. You only expect that much because you're only looking at numbers. You're only looking at a process. You're not going through it. So to have a boss that is that liaison that tells somebody that's not how this goes. It doesn't go like that. And that goes back to being in service before you being in leadership. Knowing
Mhm.
the process and knowing the job, i.e., you already know the process, already know the job, so I know what needs to be done. Knowing that and being able to speak up for your people, and honestly, while we're talking about it, gives me a little more confidence about being a manager or being a boss, because why not?
Right.
I always thought that, like you, I'm either going to be my own boss, with no employees. Like, I can run my own small business as long as I make it like that.
Right.
Or I would just kind of probably be under somebody, meaning I could still be a supervisor, but I'm under somebody else too. And even that, if you ask me, is that place between the rock and the hard, because and I don't want to live like that. But
Yeah.
um definitely challenges the stereotype of a tough boss, right?
Yeah.
um you have to be tough in some situations, and especially acknowledging, and this is where our daily request for discernment comes in, acknowledging when someone is trying to take advantage of you as a
Yeah.
good boss, as a bad boss, B.A.D.D.
Yeah.
um Now I have to be the tough guy. Well, we were friends, and just because I know you and I know your kids doesn't mean I have to cover for you every time. There was a situation that happened at school. My daughter had to call. It's funny we're talking about this, but long story short, what I had to realize is emergencies are emergencies, but emergencies don't usually happen often. So
Right.
it can't be an emergency every time. It can't.
Right.
The occurrences, and if it is, then it is probably best that you take some time off and reevaluate some time in your life to get some things corrected. And that's not nothing bad. I've had to take some time off from work myself because I just couldn't get it right enough outside of work to be okay enough in work.
Yeah.
It happens. It happens. Make that decision so that your boss doesn't.
Yeah.
Um, but soft leadership, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're being weak. It just means that you're being stable enough to have control of everything. Like you
Yeah.
said, I know how to kind of do things. And again, control does not necessarily mean enforcing authority. That's
No.
not control. It just means that you know how to handle things. Hakuna
Yeah.
Matata.
Yep.
You know how to handle the things, and
Yep.
you want to be able to. Otherwise, why are you even a boss anywhere? If you're not someone who can handle things, why are you even a boss?
Yeah, like
Um,
you really should not. Like again, being someone's boss means again you have to have responsibility over other people.
anyway, that's what
Yeah,
you applied for. Exactly.
and you have to lead them in a direction that's really going to be good for your team and the business. Like everybody involved needs to be benefiting from the success that we're all having. Especially if it's like a sales mind driven team or anything like that. Like the success depends on our team to make the business do better. Like that's the goal. And again, in order for the employees to feel that way or to feel that passion, they definitely need to feel like they are wanted and that they are appreciated and all of that included. Like, I love how you were talking about how, soft leadership doesn't mean being weak. It really doesn't. Because
Correct.
to me, it means that I can be tough and stern when I need to be and I get the point across. But at other times, like basically, I don't have to act that way all the time with you. If there's like a serious situation, hey, this is what's going on. I need you guys to, toughen up, tighten up, whatever we need to do. We all come up with a solution. I'm trying to make this better for everybody. This is what we need to do.
And that's
Versus
that transparency.
versus you're just hard all the time and you always got something mean to say or something messed up to say or you just don't have anything good to say ever, like even when you're telling someone about a job that they've done, like all it is negativity and that does not work for people. People need to feel appreciated. That's why
Yes,
like
they
it's very important, like a lot of companies started doing, employee appreciation, because they want to show their employees, hey, we want you to continue working here. We value you as an employee. You're not just a number or just, the employee that works in this department over here that no one knows who you are. No, we want you to feel like, hey, we need you. We need you
do.
to help
Exactly.
us make this successful. So I
Exactly.
definitely believe in soft leadership, and not everybody can do that because not everybody, is taught to lead that way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You don't
I
have
was
to be a hard,
elected to lead, not to read people.
right.
Uh,
You don't have to be hard all the time. Like it's definitely like if it needs to be, okay, this is what's going on. We got a serious situation. But other than that, I mean, we can joke, we can laugh, we can have a good time and still get our jobs done.
and still
That's
get
the
the job
important
done.
part.
And being that type of boss, you have to make sure that that your people realize that you know even my strength in supporting you, i.e. you being able to cover for people, my strength in supporting you is not going to cost me my peace.
Right,
So again, that discernment and making sure, we go home and we pray for people. Like, can you please help this person out because they have to come to work tomorrow. You know
right.
what I mean? I've been a coworker that prayed for coworkers situation. Like, can they please, and not being funny, but not only could I not cover their job for them, but I don't want their job to go to the bottom because I
Yeah,
couldn't cover it,
yeah,
and then the management couldn't cover it. And it's like I know the person as a coworker. I know the person's situation. That's why I said it's got to be hard for a boss too, because they know the situation. I know you have kids. I've had bosses that understood my situations where I've had to dip out and go to the schools and stuff,
yeah,
and then they've had to cover it. So
Yeah.
I've had some bad bosses, the ones that break the adversities down distinctively and say, this is what needs to be done about this situation. And we don't need to
Mhm.
panic nor get out of pocket about it. We
Right.
need to just make sure that it's covered. She's covered. The job is covered, whatever the case may be. We just need to make sure the job gets done versus talking about who did it or didn't do
Right.
it.
Right.
Love those bosses. Okay. Love you
Yep.
guys because um, y'all keep employees coming back. You really do. Those bosses. Now, I also have talked about bosses that take flack for that because they
Yeah.
have a boss. And believe it or not, their bosses can kind of see some things going on too. They can see where there's some things amiss because bosses do have their own things to do in a day anyway. So if
Right.
your boss has to cover for you, chances are they're falling behind on their reports and things like that, and at some point have to say, so and so is out today. Had to get it done. God forbid, so and so is out for 3 days.
Oh God.
And then you either have to do it as a manager, or
Yep.
now I have to ask the team to help who at this point have depended on the manager to cover. Now, I
Yep.
have had jobs where it automatically goes to the manager.
Yeah.
My most
Me too.
recent job, it fell on the coworkers. Hey, we're gonna have to split up this desk. We're gonna have to split up responsibilities. That created some discord, to
Of
say the
course it
least.
does.
Um, Now I will say the management was emotional. The manager was emotionally intelligent enough to know that that was already going to happen. So
Of
what she
course.
would do was, let me take the bulk of some stuff. Listen, when she came to the team, this is what I've done or am already prepared to do.
Yeah.
This is what I need from the team. What she
Yeah.
showed us was, I've already jumped in the trenches. I'm not just throwing y'all in there. I've already jumped in the
Nope.
trenches.
I've already
And,
handled most of
and
it.
again, knowing how to serve before you lead. I
Yeah.
know that I need to create some service, and knowing your team. And I've always told my bosses in the promotions I've had or in the change positions I've had, when I have to have my one-on-ones with them, and they
Mhm.
say, well, how do you feel about going to this position? How do you feel about us promoting you to do this? I've always said the same thing. You're the manager, and they've put you in a position to see people's strengths and to see people's weaknesses. So I'm going to trust that if you see something in me to move me like this, you know I can do it. Now,
Yeah.
what they don't know is I trust the Almighty God first and foremost when I woke up, and before my feet touched the ground. So if my feet touched the ground and led me into a one-on-one where they said that they were promoting me or moving me in a position, this is where I'm supposed to
So
be.
be it. Yep. We're ready.
This and it really isn't about you seeing it. It's about him letting you see it. It's about
Yep.
God letting you see in me that it was time to move me. So
Yep.
that's why I always give them the same thing. Hey, if you see it, if you like it, I love it for me. If you like it for me, I love it for me. Let's go. So again, just um, knowing that it being one of those good bosses, but also knowing that covering for you and being a bad boss, breaking down the adversities, cannot cost me my peace. So I have to make sure that there's something there that says, I'm trying to work with you. I
Yep.
need you to work with your problems.
Yep.
The same way I'm working it out with you, I need you to work it out with your problems. I need you, or just tell me that you got to take the day off, or
Yeah.
you can't come back. You can't take this job. So, um, definitely giving that vulnerability without the negativity. Without the,
Mhm.
well, so and so was mad that because I've had that too. So and so was mad they had to cover you. Well, then why didn't you step in as a manager and you do it? Because why let the discord be created and sit here and fester until I come back to work?
Right. Yeah.
Those would be classified as horrible bosses, and we're going to leave those right there. But definitely, as we are talking about vulnerability versus negativity, um, and talking about the shift from feeling like you owe everyone that version of yourself, that
Mhm.
boss that is going to do everything and cover for you, doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to do it all the time.
Right.
When you have a situation with somebody, is going through something, and I'm just really asking you to tap back into your supervisor days. Um, how do you then, have you ever, and if you did, how do you then confront them with, you done tapped out? Like, you run a tab, and now you've tapped out. How do you make sure that you are vulnerable with that conversation and not negative with the conversation, letting them know that, um, I'm here for you, but I can't just continue to carry the weight of you.
Compliment sandwich.
They taught you that in training. I know they did. I saw it on the training video. I know you saw. I know you did that. Let's talk about the compliment sandwich for those that don't know. Go ahead and just put the sandwich together real quick. I'm not taking a bite because I know it's made of bologna, but go go ahead with your compliment sandwich. I mean, I
um,
guess that is from a management standpoint, that is what has to happen when you
I
have
mean,
to
it
tell
really
somebody,
like depends
I'm
on the
pulling you over.
situation because I got both. So, I mean, you're supposed a compliment sandwich is basically you say something nice, you say the negative thing, and then you put something nice on top and make it all nice little sandwich. Okay. No, 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 no.
The middle
It
part
just
doesn't make it fluffy, just in case you didn't know. The middle
No,
part
I
is
know it
not fluffy.
doesn't, but it like basically it like softens the blow of whatever it is that they need to work on. And then you come back with the whole, hey, so we're gonna work on, but you're still doing everything else, blah blah blah. We're going to work on whatever said item is. Now, I have been in a situation where I had to basically just, hey, I did
I
everything
can't
I
cover you
can.
anymore.
I
Yeah.
can't do it anymore, unfortunately. I've talked to my boss. I've talked to their boss. I've talked to whoever. Like, I've defended you as much as I can. And this is me just like trying to step in to keep from having to have said conversation. Because, I mean, you know me, I'm not really a person that's confrontational anyway. I don't really want to have the hard conversations. That's really
Right.
why I never wanted to sign up to be a boss because you have to
Right.
have hard conversations about
Have to.
whatever, anything from
Right.
A
Right.
to Z. So, and then not mention, there's also reviews. Like, I'm in charge of, like, are they going to get an increase this year? Because did they follow everything that they were supposed to do outlined in the year that they had that I've been watching them, so to speak?
Yeah.
Did we go to the one-on-ones? Were they objective? Did they take the criticism
And do
and
something
apply
with
it?
it.
Did they
Mhm.
apply it and learn something from it? So,
To where
no, I
they've gotten
mean,
better. Yeah.
right or not. There are those conversations where you don't get better. And like, even for me, like, I've been in the situations where I've been on like performance plans and, PIPs or whatever, basically where
That's
you have a certain amount of time to improve your performance. Otherwise, there will be some sort of consequence, whether it's, voluntary, involuntary, termination, or you end up moving to a different department.
voluntary voluntary termination. That's cute. We'll talk about that on
Well,
another.
I mean, it's
I
true.
mean, remember I told you the boss I had that said, I don't fire people, they fire themselves.
Yeah,
Okay.
voluntary, involuntary termination. Just different things happen
Yeah.
from those types of conversations. So the way to
Yeah.
do that is, like, again, you have to change that hat, if you will. We have these different hats when we're working,
Yeah.
and again, because I again had been friends with this person and then had to now be a boss to this person, when it came down to the whole situation, the friend card wanted to get pulled up versus, okay, yeah, I get that, but I'm coming to you as the boss right now.
That part.
Like, this
That
isn't
part.
this
Change your
isn't
glasses.
me. Like, me as a friend would be like, man, this is totally screwed up, blah blah blah, but I can't. I'm coming down after I've defended you already. Like, and I had to explain that to this person. There have been conversations that you weren't even aware of that have been
That,
had about your performance.
that,
And I have defended you. And basically, I've given you little hints here and there. Every time we had a one on one or every time we would talk, I'd come up and tell you, hey, change your email or change the way you say this or change the way you do this or make sure you do this on time, whatever the case may have been. There were
yes,
those little moments where I tried to, and even the friend part came out, and it was like, hey, before anybody says anything, you might want to do such and such and such and such. When
right,
you don't take heed to that, because now it's, oh, you just being a friend, you just whatever, it becomes a whole different thing because now the boss has to say, hey, I need you to take care of this, and I've been telling you to take care of this, and you haven't been taking care of
exactly,
this. So then
exactly,
it's a whole confrontation. Like basically with that situation, the employee was mad. They felt some kind of way about having to be approached the way that they had been approached.
I'm sure.
Even though, again, I had subtly said whatever, let them know different occasions. So then at this point, now it has to be documented that, hey, we've had this conversation. Whereas
Yeah,
before, it was just, hey, me nudging you in the right direction. Now I have to push you in the direction, and I got to tell somebody that I pushed you in the direction.
and we have to sign and say that I push you. You have to sign and say you've been pushed.
That you acknowledge that you've been pushed in said direction. Then, when you don't like continue to go in said direction, now I need to put you on a plan where we have to evaluate in a certain amount of days your certain behaviors, your certain everything, which again leads to involuntary or voluntary termination. I don't know. I mean, you can either terminate it or we can terminate it for you.
That there's the voluntarily or involuntarily, and I get that. And just talking about having to put on the different said hats.
Yeah, it's hard.
We have to do that through really all parts of our life. But
Yep.
again, that's another reason why I've never really applied for management. I have leadership skills hands down, but to have to be responsible for adults, not my kids, for adults and how they feel about earning their paycheck. Like I don't see myself really being able to convince someone that their light bill is worth them coming to work, or that their car note is worth them doing their job correctly.
Their child, their baby, the brand new baby that they
Really,
just
and
had.
I said it's for me because now
Anything.
you have some people who can be in that management position, but you have to also understand that there's only so much. Come on, like you said, subtle hints. There's only so much coddling of your bad performance that somebody can actually
Yeah.
continue to do before employees get upset and they start talking about some things,
Before
or the
someone else
management is
steps in.
or the higher management is able to see it. I think I told you that there was a situation at one of my jobs where I swear they changed the whole employee handbook because of what this employee was doing around in the company.
Yep.
Just because you got to do that. But now I can say that with even with listening with your supervisor skills and the good / B.A.D.D bosses that I've had, and knowing how they operate and they run their team and they run their ship, um, that those vulnerability actions that they've taken and transparency actions that they've taken, I can only assume that it's made them stronger in
Hmm.
other ways of life, even at work. So I've said a joke that it's a joke, but it's really serious. And I've told my children, if you can stand before me and stand on what you say and what you believe, I know you can stand before anybody. Right. So it's also kind of like if the bosses at work can deal with all these different, I've given so many kudos to my good bosses that I've seen them handle other situations just from an onlooker's perspective. I've seen
Yeah.
you handle some employees very well. It couldn't have been me kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and I've seen it and they handle it very well. And not only do they keep their composure, but they help the employee keep their job.
Yeah.
We're going to handle this differently. Let me take you off the floor, or let me help you and assist with whatever's stressing you out and stuff like that. So um being vulnerable actually kind of makes you a little bit stronger and more resilient to being able to handle adversities,
Right.
especially if you don't take every situation on the same way. Like you said, that, different strokes for different folks, definitely, for one thing. But you don't want your position as a manager to become circumstantial when you're dealing with your employees. So
Right.
while there's different strokes for everybody different, it cannot necessarily be that you can look at every situation differently. At some point, the company requires you to look at something in general, which is the job getting done? So now
Yeah.
we got to go back to bosses who either have to pick up the slack to maintain things, the way they are, which can cost them their peace.
Right.
This is where we have to just really be considerate about those good bosses, the bosses that are breaking adversities down distinctly for us employees who need those chances. I know that I've had some bosses that have taken the slack for not just myself, but for other employees. I've seen slack off. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I know you had, because I've known their bosses. And I'm like, oh, when they came back from a meeting and they have a long face and they don't want to talk to anybody,
Mhm.
oh, I know you heard something about so and so. And I know, especially if the employee wasn't there and then something bad happened because the employee wasn't there, something got missed, or, there was a client or customer that didn't get answered and it escalated, goes into an
Yep.
escalation. Now I have to
Mhm.
explain, well, I'm sorry, the agent that usually handles this was not here today. Even if they tried to keep it under wraps, this is where the boss has to say, listen, your situations are your situations. Totally understand. It can't cost me my peace. I cannot cover for you to the point where it's going to cost me my job, cost me my
Mhm.
peace. So
Yep.
again, kudos to those bad bosses who are there for us and, um, uh, are just transparent, who are human, who are vulnerable. Don't think that being a boss means that you got to be hard, that you got to be tough, that you got to have, control, or I'm sorry, you got to enforce authority, because like we said,
Right.
control doesn't necessarily mean enforcing authority.
Right.
Control is that you just know how to control a situation, you know how to control your temper, you know how to apply what needs to be applied when necessary. That is control. So kudos to all the bad bosses out there. If there's anybody like me that does not want to be a boss or does not want to be a manager because you're a little weary about being in control of adults and how they earn their paycheck, I feel you. If nobody in the world feel you, I feel you. However, don't let that discourage you from stepping up in life and being promoted and stuff, because as Jazz was just saying, and as we were just discussing in this conversation, there is a way of finding that median between being a horrible boss, or the tough boss stereotype, to being a bad boss, the
Yeah.
breaks adversity down distinctively, somebody who knows how to deal with people and how to apply the control versus how to apply the authority.
Yeah.
So, and be good to those bad bosses, man. Don't, when it's boss day, do that. Get the cookies. Go to, get them a edible arrangement. Go do those things for those bosses, because they deserve it. And if you want to keep them going and not make them feel like the same way you want to be appreciated as an employee, those bosses want to be appreciated too, and they should be, because again, they take a lot of what we don't get. And like Jazz, want to subtly slip it in our, in our emails or in our teams. Hey, you might want to change your email, and it's funny you say that. I had one of my bosses say, hey, your signature, I had my
Mm.
little saying and stuff. I won't go all into that. And it wasn't bad, but what it was it wasn't uniform.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm like, well, it's a nice one. And it was like, hey, and I was like, it's not that bad. Okay, well now, email from the big bosses come down, and it's for everybody. And it was so funny because we all knew it was because of mine. You know what I mean? It was like, even one of the employees like, dang, could they have made it any more obvious that you're the reason why we got to do a change? And it wasn't that bad. It was just the fact that, with my smiley faces, and I call myself the emoji queen. I don't like any text to be taken out of context. So if I can throw an emoji in there and let you know what my face is looking like when I thought it, I'm gonna do it. Well, good big corporations don't take it like that. They say, hey, this is what we want to tell the customer, and that's it. So totally get it, and they're the boss. Whether they want to be horrible bosses or bad bosses, whatever. So, but that is what we were talking about today. Just how to
Yeah.
find that median and how to make sure that you uh, still have some vulnerability and some compassion about yourself when you're being a boss, and making sure that I love the fact that you use the word transparency, because one of the greatest bosses I've ever had, she used the same word. I'm going to be transparent with you guys. They want this. And I told them that that's not possible. And even though they told me it is and we better do it, I'm telling you, I'm expecting this. And once we reach this, then we'll work on that. And that type of
Yeah.
transparency makes us feel good. You fought for us. And even though you didn't really win, you're going to help us win,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So definitely kudos to you. I know right now you've taken on a new position and you're not really a boss right now, but you are the boss of your own life. Um,
Mhm.
while we're talking about being a boss, be a boss in your own life too.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
break adversities down distinctively in your own life and take control of your own life, and don't enforce authority like that. So you don't have to necessarily be confrontational about everything in your life. Miss
No.
Hakuna Matata, you heard it here. Okay.
First
Matata said
aid.
that. But yeah, that's basically what we wanted to talk about today. Jazz, you got anything else?
No, I mean that's basically like you said. That's why it's very, very, very important to, even as a boss, check on your people. Make sure they're okay. Make sure because it's just as important as making sure that your numbers or your quota or whatever you're in business to do is up there too. The employees matter, okay,
Yes,
and
they do.
they have to you everybody has to work like a well-oiled machine. And if
Hello.
somebody's off or somebody's doing this or something is messed up, it messes up the whole groove of everything. So I definitely believe in checking on people, making sure they're okay, making sure that, hey, like, is there anything that I can help you with today? Is there anything I can do better? Is there anything that you didn't understand? Like, even the new boss, like even me and being in my new role now, my two new bosses that I have, they're both like that. And they're both very understanding that this is something new. And
Mm-hmm.
they're making sure, like, they make sure to tell me how good of a job that I'm doing on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
When stuff finally clicks to me, or I'm like, oh my god, that makes sense. They're like, yeah, that's what we're talking about. High five, oh my god, we're so excited. So
And
I
that helps.
definitely
That
feel,
helps. Just to tap into that, that honestly helps employees deal with their personal stuff a little bit better. Because if the job is not toppled on top of that, when they're dealing with their personal life, they don't. I know some employees who actually run to work to get away from their
away
problems,
from
right?
home. Yeah,
When they really feel like my job is not the problem, they'll
yeah.
go to that to not only make the money to help their problem, but to get away from their problem. But if they feel like the job is the problem too, then that's going to be really hard for them to deal with their problem and then be like, "Ah, and I got to go to work." It should
Hmm.
be like, you know what? I can't deal with this. I got to go to work.
Right.
So definitely, I love the way you said check on your people, because your people are your quota too.
Yeah,
If they're
and they
they're
matter.
if they're not there in the numbers, they can't make the numbers, right?
Nope, exactly. And they definitely matter. Like I said, it matters. And it makes you feel good when you hear that you're doing a good job. Even if you mess something up, like, hey, this is what happened. This is a learning experience. We're all going to learn from it. We move forward and we don't do it again. It's the greatest feeling.
It is learning. Continue
Yep.
to learn.
Yep.
So,
Every day.
Well, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up today's show of boss behavior, the bad boss versus the bad boss. Thank you so much for your insight, Jazz, for the point of view you've given and from where you've stood and stuff like that. Like I said, I've never been a manager and stuff like that, but even this conversation makes me feel a little more, a little more confident that I can talk to my people and we can
Yep.
get the job done. And if they have problems, like everybody does,
Yep.
hopefully I can be more supportive because I've been there. I've been there to
Yeah.
serve, so I know how to lead. So
Yep.
make sure you know your job, make sure you know some other people's job, but most importantly, make sure that you do it with love and support. Make sure that it's okay to be vulnerable, and make sure you know it's okay to be vulnerable and be emotionally intelligent enough to know the difference between being taken advantage of and just really giving the support to somebody who needs it. Okay. So thank
Definitely.
you again for joining us for another episode of Bad to Business. I am your host, Shining Saffron, my co-host from the West Coast, Jazzy. And as always, don't have a bad day.
Let the day have a bad you.
You better. All right, we'll catch you next
Hey.
time. Thank you.